we are more nourished, energized, empowered and inspired to act for life on earth, we make it more likely that other people will become that way too. Because one of the most powerful influences on human behaviour is what we see other people do. If we see other people with what Jay described as that glint in their eye, the glint in the eye of really being in love with life, acting for life, really putting themselves behind the timeline of heading towards the future we hope for. And we see that in other people and we know that we're not alone. It becomes something that is contagious. Now, my own state of NEEAI TAFLOE-ness, it oscillates. Sometimes I'm more nourished, sometimes I'm more energised, sometimes I'm more empowered, and sometimes I'm more inspired to act for life on earth. And also, like probably all of you here too, I have my dips. I have my peaks and I have my dips. But what I'm really interested in is active processes that nudge me upwards. And that's really what I've learned from my work with Joanna, Macy particularly, and also what I've learned from my work in the addictions field, is looking at practices that nudge upwards our determination, that nudge upwards our desire and our capacity, and that's the really important one, our capacity to make a difference in the world. So what Joanna describes, and we described together in the book we wrote together, Active Hope, How to Face the Mess We're In Without Going Crazy, we described a 4-part strengthening journey. And some of you have done this before, like this spiral of what you call the work that reconnects. The work that reconnects is about how we plug back into life, like how we plug back into that energy source so that we can feel life moving through us. And what I'd like to do is take you on a journey around that spiral. There was that kind of nods when I asked you up for training earlier. You still up for it? Yep. Okay, we're going to do it. Okay, so we want to honour 2 things. We want to honour our desire to train to be more NEEAI TAFLOE. You up for that? But we also, part of that, the first one is being nourished, and we also become nourished in the tea break. So we want to hold both those things. And so in order to go with that, I'm going to ask you to call in, to evoke the spirit of brevity. Okay? And in order to do that, there's a chant where we call in brevity, and it goes like this. It goes, brevity is sweet, brevity is powerful, yeah! Together. Brevity is sweet, brevity is powerful, yeah! Cool, okay, I think we're with the brevity thing. So we're going to do a journey around 4 steps in a spiral. And for each of those, I'm going to invite you to make a statement, but also to be heard by someone else. So you're going to look around you, perhaps reach out and say, can I recruit you to hear me? Because there's something here, in addictions recovery, one of the most powerful treatments when they've done research on what works is an approach called motivational interviewing. And with motivational interviewing, it's not, you don't motivate people by giving them inspiring speeches, like I'm doing. You motivate people by becoming an inspiring listener. Because the most inspiring person you can hear is yourself when you say what inspires you. So this is the idea, we're going to be doing a bit of practice in motivational interviewing, listening to each other, making statements of our motivation. And if we're facing something really tough and hard, like what we are facing, these are, I saw your hands going that way with the problem also, like we are in serious, deep trouble. And in order to face the stuff that's hard, it really helps if we can start from a strong beginning. And so we need to nourish ourselves right at the start of our journey. And one of the places to nourish ourselves is through giving attention to gratitude. So what I'm going to do with these proclamations, these statements, is I'm going to give you a beginning of a sentence, and I'm going to invite you to turn around, recruit somebody, and then take it in turns to hear each other say something. I'm going to give you the beginning of the sentence, and you see whatever feels natural to you to follow it. And we're going to have a statement for each of these 4 steps that we're going, and we're beginning with gratitude. And the statement goes along like this. Gratitude is a social emotion. It points our attention outwards. And so the statement that I'm going to ask you to say is, For supporting me to live, I give thanks to. For supporting me to live, I give thanks to. So just maybe now, just spend a moment reflecting on what supports you to live. You know, the air that you breathe in, imagine what that would feel like on Mars or Venus if you were to take a big breath in. Pardon me, it'd be shocking. It would be shocking if you were on Mars or Venus. They're mostly carbon dioxide. On this planet it's different because of what supports us to live, which is plant life. Life with chlorophyll. So that's an example. For supporting me to live, I give thanks to all the green plants and plankton that produce the oxygen in the atmosphere. But there might be the bees, it might be your partner, it might be people who you're aware of supports you. So I'm just going to invite you now, and I'm actually going to invite you to stand up because we've been sitting a long time. There's a saying, sitting is the new smoking. Reach out and recruit somebody to be a listening partner and say, for supporting me to live, I give thanks to. So, gratitude is nourishing. Does anyone feel nourished? Yeah. When you give attention to what you really love and appreciate and what supports you, it also kind of brings up an awareness of how much of that may be threatened. And that's the times we're living. The vital support systems that support us to live are under threat. It's like we're hacking them to pieces. Plankton particularly are going through a really hard time at the moment. So I'm thinking of addictions recovery and what makes a real difference there. One of the things is hitting bottom. There is a stage where people, when they hit rock bottom, they experience the full alarm of where their life is heading in a way that shocks a kind of awakeness and activation of their survival instinct. We're going to be doing that now, and a statement that goes, when I consider the condition of our world, what aches or breaks my heart is. When I consider the condition of our world, what aches or breaks my heart is. And we're just having a brief proclamation, recruiting a listener who you will also give your ears. So with these first two steps of the spiral, beginning with gratitude, and then what we're doing with the second is honouring our pain for the world. And honouring is like really respecting as a valued messenger. Pain serves a role. There's a medical condition called Charcot joint where people lose the ability to feel pain in their joints. And so they don't know when their joints are being overstretched in a way that might damage them. And that's part of the trouble, is we switch off to pain. We don't know when our world is being overstretched in a way that harms and damages it. But also, what we're doing with these first parts is gratitude, really acknowledging what we love and receive from, honouring our pain. That's part of taking in what's happening. We now need to mobilise our response. And the third stage is about seeing with new eyes. Seeing with new eyes where you look at the same thing in a different way, in a way that helps you uncover and tap into new resources. So here's a shift. One view is, I have a purpose. But another view is, a purpose has you. And purposes are bigger than you, and they recruit people to act through. So I'm going to ask you just to play around with the sentence, a purpose acting through me is. And with that, when we talk about a purpose has you, what it has is we can give to a purpose our willing participation. We can give to a purpose our support. And when we do, that purpose has us and it acts through us. So if you can, this is the third stage, looking around, recruiting someone to hear you and be heard by you. A purpose acting through me is. So I wonder what that purpose will look like over the next 7 days. What visible expression may happen through you. And there's something here about, I think we can be kind of pregnant with purpose, where we carry it around inside us. It's like an intention. I really want to do something about that. And it's like a seed germinating inside us. And then also there's times where it sprouts above the surface. And it sprouts above the surface in terms of our actions, the steps that we take. And so the final stage of this spiral is called going forth. And it's looking at, okay, if you nourish this state of NEEAI TAFLOE, becoming nourished with gratitude, energized by your concerns, by your pain for the world, empowered by that seeing with new eyes, a shift in perspective, then what really helps inspiration is when you see yourself take steps. And that also becomes contagious because other people see you take steps too. So the fourth stage, the going forth, is designed to support action. I'm going to ask you for the final proclamation is just to turn to someone and say, thinking of the purpose that you just named and thinking about how that might act through you in the next 7 days, maybe just reflect just for a moment, okay, in the next 7 days, I will. In the next 7 days, I will. Just think about how that purpose might express itself through you. And if you're not sure, you might say, well, I will spend at least half an hour reflecting on what I'll do to take it forward. You can have a step before a step. You can have a preparation stage of change. So I'm going to invite you to now turn to someone and say, in the next 7 days, I will. So there is a training process, there is a state that we can reach, and we probably all might remember times when we've really felt it strong, the state where we are nourished, empowered, energized, inspired to act for life on earth. And that there is a task, there is a project to cultivate that, to cultivate it in ourselves and to cultivate it in others. And that is part of the work of the Climate Change Climate Psychology and Alliance. And that's why I'm really pleased that all of us have come here today, because we share this task in different ways, may have different approaches to it. Thank you very much.